Feeling stuck in the one person grind? You are not alone. This is Scale You, your weekly guide to growing your business like crazy. Every single week, we have amazing entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants coming in telling about their amazing story and how they were able to scale themselves. We're talking productivity hacks, automation magic, and a little bit of AI sprinkled in between to help future proof yourself and your business. On Scale You, we guide you from being a solopreneur to becoming an unstoppable business owner. So ditch the struggle and the grind, and let's go ahead and scale you. Our guest today is Sue Glasser, and she has 11 years of experience when it comes to public speaking, one-on-one coaching, consulting, and facilitating group workshops. Sue is a productivity management and self-development specialist who knows what it's like to walk in your shoes because she has done so herself. As you guys will get to know in her story, she has learned that productivity on organization is an actual skill, not just a talent. Sue has also leveled up her own skills and is now not only just a speaker and productivity coach, but also a highly qualified confidence coach, mindset mentor, life coach, and a Tony Robbins Results Coach. We all have 24 hours in a day. How can Sue help you and your team make the most of yours? Hey everyone, so we are with our amazing guest today, the amazing Sue Glasser. Hey Sue.
Hey Leanne, how are you?
I'm good. Excited to have you here. How have you been today? How is it in the beautiful, beautiful day there in Australia?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here as well. And looking out the window, beautiful day, absolutely. So even though we're in winter, we still got some great weather at the moment. So
I always find that interesting, and I say it every time to people when they say like, "Oh, it's wintertime," because here in the Philippines, it's been like in the 40s. It's so warm here the last couple of days. So, yeah.
And you can't imagine, yeah, nobody's feeling cold. Yeah.
Around this time, yeah. All right, so Sue, to kind of get us started, when it comes to yourself and your story and your life, can you walk us through a couple of highlights, 3 to 5 or even 10, up to you, of highlights of your life of what brought you here to who you are now?
Beautiful. I love this question. There's so many things, okay, obviously you could think of, but so from what you can hear, my accent is South African. So I'm originally born in South Africa, and now we all live here in Australia in Melbourne, which is fantastic. And so I suppose the big highlight of our lives was, immigrating and leaving everything we kind of knew behind and coming to a new place. But we've never regretted it once, and, we're all very happy here. Biggest highlight for me, I suppose, was meeting and marrying my soulmate.
Aww.
And I met my husband in March. We got engaged in July and married in December of the same year. We've been married for 35 years. So
when you know, you know.
Yes, when you know, you know. That's exactly it. And, we have 2 beautiful children who happen to be amazing humans as well. And we spend a lot of time with them. So for me, that's really important. And other things that have come up in my life, well, I'm a black belt in Taekwondo, which I got at the age of 40. So I always say, it's never too late to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And, we actually a family of black belts, and it was something really amazing to do as a family. And it's something you've got forever, right? So that was very special for me. I beat breast cancer, so I'm a survivor, and that happened during COVID. So it was a very interesting time, to go through that at the time. But it's 4 years later now, and thank God I'm fine.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my other big highlights is I'm a Tony Robbins Results Coach as well. So that's part of something that I do. So I have my business as a productivity and success coach, and as a professional speaker. But then I also have my Tony Robbins persona as well. So. Wow. Those are some of it.
That's amazing that pathway you've definitely gone through the roller coaster of life. I especially love the when you said that you're black belt in Taekwondo, I'm like, I must not fight Sue. I should stay on Sue's good side. Never on her.
Well, it was a long time ago. I was 40 then. I'm 59 this year, so it was a while ago. But hopefully I've got
in. Yeah. Yeah. So will not fight Sue or the rest of her family as well. That's amazing. That's a good way to bond for sure. Is everyone taking that same class, and everyone kind of I would imagine you would have basically practiced with your kids as well on some of the moves. Yes. So yeah, pretty good bonding. Amazing.
Yeah, it was very special.
Well, tell us more about being a a coach in general? Like, you got the certification from Tony Robbins. What has that been like for you, being a coach to a lot of people? Like, for our anyone listening, the reason I met Sue was she was actually one of our. I met her on a networking event that was really cool and really fun, and then she actually did a workshop for 2XU, teaching a lot of our AAs on time management. And to this day, that we're still quoting a lot of your quotable quotes basically from the workshop. We would still say it in our meetings. So tell us more about that. Like, what was the path for you to become a coach, and what does that look like for you essentially day to day?
Beautiful. Well, I'm really glad to hear that you're still using all of those, because as you know, I like simplicity is the key, and then you remember to do something, right? Which is so good. It's interesting because my background is actually advertising and marketing. So, when I was in South Africa, I was in advertising, and, I was kind of accounts manager and director there. So that's the kind of stuff that I did, and I really loved that. But when I came to Australia, I stopped doing that. And so that was my background, and I was in client service, and I always enjoyed the whole presenting of concepts, etc. So I was always okay standing in front of a group of people and sharing ideas. So that was kind of what I loved and enjoyed most about my job. And so, interestingly enough, like, I did a lot of different things, because when your kids are growing up, and people who have kids who are kind of around my age will know that while they're growing up, you do just what's necessary. It's not necessarily what you want to do, at that stage of your life, because, you want to bring up your family. But when my kids got to that sort of finishing school age, I thought, well, hey, and I said this to my husband, I remember saying this, I want to be a somebody again. Because, you feel like you want to have a title, or be able to say, I do this, and so the interesting story is that I didn't know that I wanted to be a coach, and I didn't know that that was my path, and I didn't know that I wanted to be a speaker, because I really wasn't sure, what I wanted to do, but I knew I wanted to do something. And one of my passions is stationery. I love stationery, very passionate about it. And here in Australia, there's a brand called Kiki K. You may not know of it, of course, but it's very well known here. And it's a fantastic brand. And, I really wanted to kind of work there or run workshops for them. I wanted to do something in stationery, and that was something that came up. When I went to the workshop, though, it was based on a book called Paper Flow, which was a book that was about how to deal with paperwork. Now, remembering that this was 12, 15 years ago, so literal paper was, a lot more popular in those days. And so when I did this workshop, the interesting thing is I'm not a naturally organized person. Some people have the gene. I always say like 20% of people have got the gene, but I'm not naturally organized. But when I did this workshop, suddenly everything in my office got organized. I used the system, I set it up. Everything in my office was great. And by the way, still to this day, I use that same system. It's just brilliant. Right? And I got so excited about that I got in touch with the lady who wrote that book, Maran, and I said, I need to do this and share this with the world, because if I can do this, anybody can get organized. Because what I learned was you don't have to it's not a talent. It's actually a skill. And you can learn to be more organized, right? And I wanted to share that with the world. And that's really how my whole journey started, because I trained with her. And, I trained with her as a professional organizer, because that's really, what she did. But I started running workshops and doing sort of one-on-one coaching with people around getting more organized. And, so that's how it all started originally. And then it kind of evolved from that, because I realized that actually being productive and effective is actually a goal, and keeping it up is a habit. And then so the whole thing came together, and I said, right, okay. So actually the mindset is a huge part of wanting to be organized and productive and effective. And that's why, I kind of went into coaching around, goals, habits, and all the mindset stuff as well. So people can be productive, but I want them to know that it's because they have to have a goal, and they have to have some habits, put them in place in order to be that way.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then I suppose the Tony Robbins side of it, just from, coaching point of view. So actually, we'll go back a little bit. When I was running workshops for Kiki K, because eventually I did start running the workshop, and people used to always ask me, are you a life coach? And I used to say, no. Well, they said, well, you should be one. So kind of for a while, I'd been thinking about, becoming a life coach and doing some kind of training in life coaching. And during COVID, I was at a Tony Robbins event, a virtual event, and I got this kind of message, and it said, hey, if you're going to be a coach, a life coach, be a Tony Robbins coach. And so that's how that all happened. And here I am today doing both. So
I like how that all snowball as well, or like one after the other, and you were learning a lot of different techniques. And then it's a goal and then it's a daily habit. Um, I like seeing it that way because like for I've seen it for a lot of people who do struggle with the productivity, the day to day, like, oh, wasn't productive today. Like, oh no, you've just a little bit of consistency, so then the next day you can do it a little bit better. I like
yeah.
I like thinking about that. I'll think about that a little bit more. So your nuggets of wisdom is always good for me because then my brain like sits on it and then a little bit like, oh, that's what Sue meant. So
I
for,
love
for
that.
that
I love
for that
that.
nugget, yeah. So what were
For sure.
challenges with that? What were kind of the obstacles that you had to a little bit go through to be where you are now? Like you did the you got the training basically, then you started running the workshops, and then you became a life coach. What were the different obstacles that you either had to go through to get there, or from just your day-to-day as well, of like working with your clients, working with the people doing the workshops in person? I see your posts on LinkedIn all the time when you're doing them. So yes, tell us more about that. Like what will be the struggle for someone to get there, and then the day-to-day of what that looks like.
Yeah, I love that question too. Because, the thing is, often people say, okay, this is it. I want to start my own business. I'm going to be an entrepreneur. And, we love the concept of the idea. And, most of the time people want to become their own boss because they think they're going to get more freedom and more time, which is the complete opposite.
Yep.
Because once you become an entrepreneur and you run your own business, you're literally always working,
Hmm.
because you're always working towards. So that's one of the struggles. I think realizing that, finding out that actually doing something for yourself is great, but actually you have much more commitment time-wise. And I think people need to understand that. When you think about when you're going to start your own business, just remember that it's really exciting having that autonomy and freedom, but your time, you're spending more time doing everything. Suddenly everything is your responsibility. I think that's one of the things. One of the other things, and I think that was one of the things that I would have changed if I started again now. And by the way, my first business I started was when my daughter, she was in my tummy. She was pregnant, so 32 years ago. One of the struggles is capital. And if you start a business with no money,
Hmm.
it's tough. So I would do that differently. I would make sure that I had built up some capital or got an investor or did something where I had support. And why I'm saying that is because when you do start your business, you'll take anything on
Hmm.
because you need to earn a living. And you don't always necessarily do the things you enjoy doing. You end up doing things that you just have to do.
Yeah.
And you don't really love. So I think having the capital behind you just gives you the support, knowing that you can take some risks and you can choose who you want to work with, etc. Like, does that make sense? So
Mhm.
you it's just different, because otherwise you're often doing something that you don't enjoy. And the other thing I always say is you need to work out what you don't like and what you don't enjoy doing,
Mhm.
which is just as important as knowing what you do.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you end up doing stuff that you don't enjoy. And I'll give you an example of that. So when I started doing the professional organizing, one side of it was paperwork and the other was home organizing and decluttering.
Mhm.
And I used to go and help people declutter their homes, and I really did not enjoy that. It just wasn't something that worked for me, because remember, I'm a stationery nut and I love the organizing side of paperwork and dealing on the sort of more business productivity side. It really didn't light me up.
Mhm.
And eventually I just had to say no to people who phoned and said, can you come and do decluttering? And it was hard, because now that's income. But I
Mhm.
said, no, I have to decide that I don't enjoy that, and I've got to let it go. Does that
Yeah.
make sense?
Yeah.
So I think that's also one of the things for me as a challenge. It was like, okay, let go of something that's not serving you, so that you can focus on the things that you actually love and enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, like I remember all the way back when I started 2XU, I literally would say yes to anyone. As well, it's the same feeling of like whenever someone said like, "Hey, I'm willing to pay you," and I'm like, "Yes." So I definitely relate in taking things on that don't spark joy, taking things on just because we are at that starting phase. But I also believe like everyone has to kind of go through that, so then you realize what works, what doesn't work. A lot of people always ask us like, oh, why didn't you take part-time executive assistants? And I'm like, no, because that failed horribly at the beginning. So it is, talking from experience that you go through things. But I love that. The piece of nugget always is just that if it doesn't make sense, if it at the end of the day it takes energy away from you rather than refilling your cup, basically, it doesn't make sense to stay. I love that thought. um
Yeah.
so with your day-to-day, Sue, what's the value then you're trying to create in the world? Like, what's something that you are creating within yourself or within every person that you teach or every person that you work with? What's that value look like for you?
You know, I think that's kind of that purpose thing, right? Like people, we want to know what our purpose is, or why we're here. Is there something that I'm doing that's going to make a difference? And I truly believe that anybody who loves what they do does something that helps other people. Like you'll find anybody who's really passionate about their work, they're usually helping people, because people are egocentric and all about themselves. It's not the same thing. So I think that's an important part. That you want to be able to really love what you do. I forgot the question now because I was telling you something. What did you ask me? Okay.
It was basically what's the value you're creating in the world?
What value do I bring? Yeah, what value?
But I love that beginning though.
You know what? That's one thing. I like to be honest, so there we go. I'm honest. I forgot the question. So the value that I bring, I believe that my purpose is to really share with grace and love and fun, with people how to live their best life through being more productive, more effective, and doing things that they love to do, like getting to do what they're choosing to do in their life and not what they have to do. And my late father taught me the saying, and it's on the bottom of all my emails, you probably saw it, is always look for the good, the possible, and the positive. And so for me, that's what I share with people. Like my clients, the first thing I always do is ask them what's been good, what's your highlights, what's been great since I last spoke to you, because most people have a negative bias and they're always looking for the bad, everything that's impossible and being negative, right? But actually the other side of that is available to everybody. I mean, that for me is my passion, is to kind of get people to understand that there's always good and there's always a reason things happen, and you're always going to turn around and understand why that's happened to you. So I think that's really what I focus on most.
So essentially the value you're creating is you're kind of a spotlight to people. You're letting them kind of shine. You're kind of reminding them of the positive. I love that, the positive and the possible in the world, as well as looking for the good. And I've always been also a believer in everything happens for a reason, which is why, like, whenever someone comes into my life, I'm like, okay, there's a reason. Like, for example, for you, Sue, I'm like, there's a reason I met Sue specifically. There's something beautiful we're creating together. So got it. That's amazing. I love the thought of that. So then what would it look like, Sue, if you had a second you? Like second, third, say there's 10 Sues. You have an army of Sues around you. What would be the thing that you'll be creating in the world to kind of amplify the value you're trying to create?
I think that's that same concept of good, possible, positive. I feel like if I could get all of me out there and saying to people, hey, let's find something good in what happened there. Let's look for what's good. Let's break away from fear, because fear is the thing that holds people back, right? Fear and anxiety and all of those things. And so I want people to understand that fear is, most of the time, it's a story. It's an idea in your head. Like, it's not real. Anxiety is fearing something that has not happened yet, right? So most of the time, fear is really about something that hasn't happened. So for me, it's like saying to somebody, stop. It's just a story. Remind yourself that that's just a story, and then, move forward. So I think that's me. I'd be out there saying, you can be happy, you can be positive. It's a choice, and hopefully help them to make that choice and understand that there's always something good, always, to look for. Gratitude, I mean, is the easiest way to swap out a negative thought, right? If you're unhappy, think of something you love or you're happy about, and then gone. Now you've got a new thought, positive thought. So I think that would be my job.
It'll be
as an army of two.
your army of Sues will be focused on. So then what makes you you? Like what's your I love asking it in a different way as well. Like what would you say is your superpower? Like if you were, if you fell into a vat of chemicals basically, what would be the thing that would be amplified? Like what makes Sue the way Sue is every single day?
I think I've kind of covered that in a way because I've said that this is the way I think, and I think if a superpower to be a positive person in my is a superpower. I really believe that because I think that most people are not. Like most people are negative. They have a natural negative bias, so they're going to be looking for what's wrong, what's missing, where am I still going, what do I still need to do, right? And so for me, I feel like my superpower is that I understand that my emotional home is happiness and positivity, and I know how to live there. A lot of people just don't know. So I would say, yeah, that's my superpower.
Well, thank you for finalizing. Because in my head, whenever I ask that question, it's always curious because some people like will get into this talking about like, oh, we'll be a team of yous basically. Sometimes they'll say like, oh, my superpower is actually I see the world this way, or I do this for every single person that I meet. So that's an interesting way of your superpower is amplifying positivity basically. It's finding it and making it stronger for people. So I love that. I love that thought. So Sue, anything else that you want to talk about as well for everyone else to find you, to kind of get to know you? Anything else you want to promote or talk about? And we'll put all of the links below in the show notes. But yeah, where can people find you and get to know more about you?
Beautiful, thank you. Well, obviously my website, which is in my name, so sueglasser.com.au, because I'm in Australia. So, and Sue Glasser on LinkedIn, Paperclippo, which is paperclip with a P-O on the end, as my Instagram. Because originally I was Paperclip Professional Organizers, which is where I started my career. So that's why Paperclippo comes up. Which is a fun story, by the way, how I got my name. And if we've got time to talk about it.
Sure, yeah.
And so, yes, I would love to obviously help people. What I do is, besides one-on-one coaching, my passion is actually speaking and, getting out, like we've shared a workshop together. So, that's something I really love to do because I get to speak to a whole lot of people and make that difference in a group of people and, make it fun and interactive. So for me, I'm always looking for speaking opportunities because, I want to get this out into the world, help people be productive, effective, live their best life, be happier, take care of themselves, all of those things.
Use your superpower, basically. Well, we have a little bit of time. I was curious about that when I saw your Instagram handle. Why is it the way that it is?
Called Paperclip. Yeah. So remember I spoke about how I read that book and then I wanted to got hold of Marianne, who wrote the book, and I wanted to meet with her. So she said, yes, let's meet. I'd love to meet with you. Let's have a coffee. So she lives kind of quite far from where I am, and she said, okay, we'll meet for a coffee. So I drove there on the night before, I said to my kids, okay, this is it. I'm going to see Marianne. I'm going to start this new business. I'm going to be a professional organizer. What should I call my business? And my son shouted out and he said, hey, what about Paperclip? He says, because you love stationery and it keeps things organized. I said, I love it. That makes so much sense, right? So I said, yep, I like that. So when I went to meet Marianne the next day, I was driving around, I couldn't find a parking. It was really busy, the area. And eventually I turned into like a little side street just on the side there, and I looked up and it was called Paperclip Lane. And I'm like, wow, this is a sign. And I literally jumped out the car and I took a photograph and I sent it to my husband and I said, you see, this is where I'm meant to be.
I love that. Yeah. It's like, when people are looking for like, should I go with this? Should I do it? Like, nope, the universe was very clear with the sign that it sent you. Amazing. Now let's try a little more. Sorry?
Not everyone sees the signs. Not everyone sees the signs. They often miss the signs. Like, people need to actually keep their eyes open. And as you say, sometimes it's like a bright light going, hey, look at me, but people can miss it. Look for the signs. Ask for the signs because they'll come true.
That's true. Well, It has been amazing getting to know you, Sue, through this. Like I said, we've been kind of on LinkedIn connected since like I think that was October of last year. So it's been amazing getting to know you a little bit better. And amazing. That's such a cool story as well. And I love that we're ending on that note of like, look for signs, or even if you can't find them, ask for it. There's also a essential thing at asking for it. Thank you so much for your time today, Sue. And for everyone else, like I said, everything else would be in the description to find Sue, to connect with her. Even if you just follow her on LinkedIn, her posts are really funny and sometimes very inspiring as well. It's a good mix. So thank you so much for being on the Scale You podcast, Sue.
Honestly, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And I look forward to getting to know you even better.
And as I mentioned, guys, all of the links to be able to connect with Sue, I highly recommend to connect with her, will be in the description below. And if you guys like this episode, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, make sure to hit the thumbs up button right there. If you guys can comment below your favorite parts, your favorite nuggets basically from Sue as well. And if you still haven't yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button, whether you're watching on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you are. And I hope you guys have an amazing day. And remember that small steps matters. And I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.